everybody, welcome back to my channel, Delightful Creations by Amber. Today we have a viewer requested video on how to do embossing. So this video was requested by the lovely Lisa, and her YouTube channel name is The House of Jane. She does have a lot of videos, you guys. You should go check her out. She does unboxing, she does like beauty and hair and sewing and freebies and how to get them. So I'll leave a link to her channel down below. She is amazing, so go check her out. This is my box here that I have all of my embossing things that I need to emboss right inside here. The only thing that I don't keep in here are my actual stamps because, you know, whatever project you're working on, you might want a different stamp. So inside here, I have my embossing tool that I bought off of Facebook, used, and I'm going to keep using it till it doesn't work anymore. It's called the Embossing Heat Tool by Marvy, and I like that it's purple. It has a little stand on here, so my heat tool does not sit directly onto my desk. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. And then I have all of my powders. I have my ink and I have my tray. Inside this little baggie here, I have my non-stick homemade static bag. And all this is a sock with some baby powder in there. And I just have it in the bag so the baby powder doesn't get all over everything else inside my box. So I'll have that. I have these embossing powders here that came with the heat tool. And today we're going to have a play with some burgundy and what's the one, navy? Yeah, let's do burgundy and, yeah, right here, the silver. I really like silver. And then I think we won't do any clear today because that doesn't really show up that great. But here is the embossing ink that that I use anyways. It's a Watermark stamp pad. It's Versamark. It works really good. It's wet and spongy, and I do have a refill for this as well. I haven't had to redo it yet, but here's my refill. So it works good. And then I have my tray here. I believe this is Recollections, and it did have another slot holder right here, but I took it out because most of my papers that I have when I do embossing, they fit inside here. I tend not to do a big page of embossing, but if I do, it's really easy just to pull this other slot right out. So I'm going to use my tray. I also have a couple of funnels down here that you can use to funnel it back into your jar. I usually don't use that. I just try not to shake out too much powder. And I also want to go ahead and pull out this beautiful purple because I absolutely love purple. So here are my stamps that we're going to use today. I have this one that I got from Joann's a long time ago, and then these two I got at the thrift store for just a couple of bucks each. And I have my stamp pad above me here. I think we can get away with using just the little one today. And then I have cut out some white paper that we will go ahead and stamp onto. So the first thing that we want to do is decide what stamp we want to use. So I think today we'll go ahead and we'll use this beautiful little flower. And I do have some baby wipes off to the side here to be able to clean the stamp off right here because they do get sticky. So I've got my stamp mounted. I'm going to grab my piece of paper. I think we'll do like a slender one, and we'll go ahead and stamp that on there. Just like you would with regular stamping, but you want to make sure you use your static tool to clean off the area of the paper to get a really nice stamped image, because anything that's stuck on there is going to be heat embossed once you put the powder on top of it. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp really good, just like you would normal stamping. Like I said, it's nothing too difficult. And make sure it's really inked up, and the same, put the pressure straight down. We'll come up here maybe a little bit below the middle. Press, hold it for a few seconds. I'm going to put the lid back on my stamp because I don't want that to get dried out, and I definitely don't want to blow any of the powder into there. I'm going to lift straight up. That is a beautiful image. There is still some of that ink, like I said, down on the stamp. So just grab a baby wipe and clean that off. And then we are good to go. So with the Versamark ink, you do have a little bit of time before the ink sets up and dries before you need to grab your tray or whatever unit you're going to put your embossing powder onto. Let's do a burgundy flower. I was going to say silver, but that'd be kind of weird. Let's do a burgundy flower. So I just sprinkle it a little bit on there, and then I set it over here, usually to the side, and I do a tapping motion and back and forth, and then I bring my jar back into the big center, and then I just tap off the excess. I try everything I can to get all the powder back into the container and not into the tray. I also have a Q-tip that I forgot to pull out of my little box there, because sometimes some of the powder will stick where you don't want it, like along the edge here. It will set up along that edge. So if you don't want it, I just use a Q-tip. They do make other tools that you could probably get those off with, but Q-tip works perfect for me. I'm going to put the lid back on my embossing powder, because if you don't do that and you turn the blower on, it's going to go everywhere, make a big mess for you to clean up. And then I have just a little bit left in my tray, and I'm not going to fuss about putting that back in the jar. Embossing powder does go a long way, so you really don't need to save it, but you certainly can. And I'm going to save this for us this time, because I want to show you once we're all done for the day of what the pretty colors we have left, and we can certainly use that in like a mixed media fun embossing little collection tray. So here we go. I'm going to turn on my heat tool, and we'll go ahead and heat emboss this. We're ready to go. There. And that took a little longer than usual to heat up because it was the first image. So you'll see the next ones we do will be a lot faster, but that is now finished. And if you do touch it while it's warm, it will smear. So just be careful where you set those. Go ahead and grab this back over here, and we'll grab another stamp. And let's do this pretty flower here. I really like this one. I've used it a lot, and I think it makes beautiful images. And so what you can do is use these on cards, like a card front. That would be really pretty. You can definitely use them as backgrounds if you stamp more than one on there. You can fussy cut them out and use them on your project that way, just like you would any other image. Can certainly use them on pockets or tucks or pages in your junk journal. There's just so many things that you can do with embossed images. So I'm going to clean my paper really well with this baby powder. All that's in there is baby powder. And then I'm going to cover my ink, so I don't want that to dry out. And go ahead, maybe we'll do this one a little below the center, and I'll try to add a sentiment on top. Here we go. Nice pretty flower image. And this ink is really sticky. I can feel it on my mounting device. I need to clean this off. It is quite sticky from me doing some embossing earlier to make sure that my powders were still good. Sometimes when you have powders for a long time, like I bought mine used, so I had to throw away a couple of the powders because they just weren't setting up. It was looking grainy. It was not a fun experience trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, when in fact it was the embossing powder. So let's make this one purple. This beautiful Purple by Recollections Pearl Embossing Powder. I have fallen in love with it. I love anything purple, but the fact that this one's like pearl, it's like iridescent. It's so pretty sparkly. I don't know. I just really like it. So I just sprinkle that onto my image. I try to be as careful as I can, get it all over the place, and then I bring my jar back, and I'm going to tap, tap, tap right back into the jar. There we go. And I was touching the edge of my paper, so the embossing powder is going to stick down on there. If you're not wanting to do that, you could probably wear some gloves, but I mean, in all honesty, I don't really fuss too much about it. In fact, most of the time I actually forget to even use the static sock over there. I'm not I'm not too concerned with it, I guess. I still get pretty decent results. I haven't had a whole bunch of fundals. I did accidentally smear the ink when I was laying it down a couple times when I was practicing, and that'll happen. You'll get more familiar with the process. So let's go ahead and heat emboss this one as well. There we are. And then I'm going to let this cool before I put another sentiment on top of there. I'm not sure if it'll smear or not, so we're just going to let that one cool down. But I wanted to show you some other examples here of ones that I have already done. So this one here is the same purple flower, and then I just used the leaf stamp with some green. And then I used a completely different stamp here with my silver, just some baskets. And I did them in opposite corners so that I can cut these down and I can add a sentiment later if I want, or I can just leave it as is. And then I did the same technique using the blue with the same baskets, just the opposite corners. And then I stamped my gorgeous girl with that pretty, pretty purple. I also wanted to show you the background stamp. So I just stamped it in different places, and this is the one I was telling you about. So up here you can see my fingerprint that I touched it. This is one that I did not clean off, and then I accidentally bumped it right here when it was hot with the heat tool. So that's how I know that it'll smear. But I just wanted to share with you that these are the results that you'll get. While still pretty, definitely can be improved by just using that static tool and being a little bit more careful. And then this one here, I did a double one, and I'm just going to cut that in half, and I'll have two single images. And then I played around with some music paper, and I just stamped on there like a heart wreath with my purple. So those are all the examples that I have of that. And yeah, you can totally do it on colored paper. You can do it on pattern paper. Whatever your heart desires. You can stamp anything as long as it is paper. Now, when you're doing this, you want to be careful because you don't want to get too close to the paper. It can, like, not necessarily burn. I don't hold it on there that long. I've never tried to burn the paper, but yeah, just want to be careful you don't get it too close to the paper. This heat tool does get really, really hot. So we're going to go ahead and stamp Thinking of You. I'm going to do my best to center this. And there is still some dried embossing powder from the flakes that I didn't get off before, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here in the middle. As middle as I can get. I'm trying not to rock the stamp because when you rock it, it's not going to turn out very good. Especially with words, things that are thinner or have more detail, it's a little bit more difficult to get a cleaner image when it's a small stamp like that. So I'm looking at it from the light. It looks like that turned out great. I'm really excited about that because I haven't stamped any words except for once I did Merry Christmas. I just don't do a whole lot of embossing, and I think the reason for that is it does take a little bit to set the whole thing up. And then I do have a 2-year-old that likes to get into everything, so I tend not to pull out messy things like glitter and embossing powder. So I'm just going to sprinkle some silver on there, add a little touch of beauty to our words, and then just make sure you get the whole stamped image covered with your powder, and then I just tap it into my jar. It's the same every time. I do the same thing every time. And once you get into a routine, see there? Perfect. Good enough for me. I'm going to cover up my lid. I've made mistakes. I've blown the embossing powder all over my desk. I've dumped the embossing powder tray. Yes. Yes, you will learn as you go. So let's go ahead and do this Thinking of You image. Very nice. Very nice. I like that a lot. I'll bring it up closer for you guys. There you are. You just want to make sure that wherever you are heat embossing, you are doing it in an area that is safe to do so and that you have something protective. So you can use parchment paper. That would work great to have underneath of your project so that you don't burn through your desk or your table or whatever it is you're going to be crafting on. You can use your craft mat. I have used my X-Acto knife craft mat, but it does bubble up. It bends that material, so I don't use it anymore. I bought this. It came in a 3-pack from Walmart, and I think it works really great. I use one for embossing. I use one for baking, and then the other one I haven't used yet. It's just down here in my craft room, and I'm not really sure what I'll use that for. It doesn't seem to be wearing or anything like that. So there we go. I'm going to stamp these leaves on here. And I didn't pull out the green, so let me grab that green here. It's in my little jar, like I said, that I got from that lady. off of Facebook. I find all kinds of things, but I'll tell you what, this no spending money on craft supplies has been a little, not as challenging as I thought it was going to be, but definitely a little bit more of a making more creative uses of the things that we have already, which is perfectly fine. It's just tempting. It's the temptation to not go shopping, to not go to the secondhand store is like my ultimate addiction. I go to the thrift shop because it's where I buy a lot of our things, like clothes and stuff like that for my kids. So it's really hard to walk by the craft section and not go over there, because I know that if I walk over there, I'm gonna find something that I'm gonna be like, ah, I can't live without that. So yeah, I just stay away. I just stay away. Stay away. And then also not having obviously any of your online websites that you shop at right there as soon as you open your browser up, so you're not tempted to click on them or see the deals of the day. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and set these leaves. There we are, completely done. So that is our project for today, doing some embossing and having fun. Here are a couple other images that I stamped and then I cut out. I just fussy cut them, as you can tell. This image, I haven't quite figured out how to layer these up together. I knew they do go together on this stamp set here, and I was just having a play to see what this one would look like versus the one that I showed you today. And I love this. This is really, really pretty. So that is our project. I hope you learned something. I hope it inspires you. Thank you everyone so much for stopping by. I hope you have a great day. Bye guys.